Well, of course, for a club like Liverpool, it's always important to be in the Champions League, but you wouldn't say it's more important for Liverpool to be there than for Arsenal or Tottenham or any of the other big clubs. Leicester will be disappointed they missed out. However, would it be that important for Leicester as much as yes, it is because it's great to be there. I think when you're talking about the big clubs, it's important for them to be there. As to whether they're going to spend big this summer, I don't think we're going to see many people spending big this summer because, of course, after last year with the pandemic, and of course we really don't know what the future holds as well. To then go and spend a lot of money, possibly not. They will strengthen the squad. I think it really depends on who goes because, of course, we do have Van Dijk, Gomez and Matip coming back. So they're like three new signings who haven't played all season. So I'd be very surprised if Liverpool spend big unless they lose players because, of course, that's always a possibility.
Well, that's a rumour. Obviously, there's talk about them maybe the front three coming to the end of their cycle. In Spanish media yesterday, it was rumoured that Antoine Griezmann could be available on a cut price deal and he's been linked with Liverpool. Can you envision that happening and do you think he would suit Liverpool's style of play?
Well, first of all, of course, when you talk about can you envisage anything happening, this is football. Anything can happen. You talk about Ronaldo going back to Manchester United. Dembele we were linked with, and personally I think that would be a better fit. A, because of his age, and B, because of the profile of the type of player he is. Because, he's quick, he's fast, he's like a Mane, he's like a Salah, and because of the way we play, I think he would suit us more. Of course, if you can get a player of Griezmann's quality, that would be great. But I think that, if it was me, I would be looking more for a Dembele type player.
Well, speaking of people that may leave Liverpool this summer, it was rumoured that Nat Phillips could be allowed to leave Anfield for as small as £10 million. After the season he's had, do you believe he deserves more time at the club?
Well, first of all, he's done a fantastic job at the club. But you'd have to say that if those three centre-backs come, he's not going to be ahead of them. So it's not a question of him deserving, it's a question of whether he wants it. Because, of course, at his age now, he wants to be playing regularly. So, and I have so much admiration for players who want to go and play. It means taking a step down. Because what's the point of staying at a club if you're not going to play? He's 24 years old. He wants to play regular football. His stock has gone up and is interesting that you say as little as £10 million because I'm sure up until 6 months ago, £10 million would have been, people would not even have thought about Nat Phillips being £10 million. So the fee is not that important. It's more to do with the fact as to whether Nat feels he's happy at Liverpool and he's happy being part of a squad whereby he can come in now and again and play, or he wants to play regularly. So, I can't say, from my perspective, I would like to go and play every week and play regularly. But from his perspective, if he chooses to do that, I'll have nothing but respect for him.
All right, well, another player that's been linked with Liverpool is Jadon Sancho, but he's also been heavily linked with Man United and Chelsea. What impressions do you have of him as a player? And out of those three clubs, who do you think he'd suit best?
Well, first of all, every top player is going to be linked with all the clubs. When you say players are linked with a club, he's also linked with Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Real Madrid, Barcelona. So this whole idea of being linked with a club means nothing. You just have to look at the player who's available, the money he's going to cost, and the clubs who can afford him, and then you put two and two together and normally get 6 or 7. As far as the Jadon Sancho thing goes, I think probably out of those clubs, I think Manchester United. Because if you look at the way Liverpool play, as I said, I would much rather much more direct play. He's very skillful, he's very tricky. But I think Dembele would suit us more than any other player. But he has to pick the club rather than the stature of the club, the profile of the club. That suits his football. That's what happened at Dortmund. That's why Dortmund are very good. Haaland has the same problem. Do you go to a big club, Real Madrid, whereby the football may not suit you? So out of those clubs, I would probably think Manchester United would probably suit Jadon Sancho. Are they interested in him? Is he going to go? Does he want to go? Who knows?
Just speaking of forward players, do you personally believe it's time to break up Liverpool's front three? Do you reckon it's come to the end of its cycle, or do you think that's too early to sort of call?
Not at all. The front three are suited for the way Liverpool play. I don't think there'd be a better front three. Because in terms of what Jurgen Klopp wants, because if you look at the front three, when they first came to Liverpool, I don't think that Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United, Man City would have wanted any of the front three. But because of the way that Jurgen Klopp plays, the patterns that he plays, the template that he wants from all of his players, not just the front three, suits Liverpool and suits those front three. I can't see Salah going anywhere else and doing the same job, or Mane or Firmino. So it's just perfectly suited to what Liverpool want. For example, people talk about Firmino. If we get Roman Lewandowski, who scored 49 goals, whatever he scored this season, 41 goals, the other two won't play in the same way. So you shouldn't look at individual players and their quality and say, he's a great player, let's sign him. You look at what suits the team. And I don't think there's a front three in the world who would suit Liverpool, not that they're better than anybody else, more than those front three. The problem they had was the centre-backs missing. I mean, Jurgen Klopp has said it himself. It's like an orchestra. Once you take one part of the orchestra out, never mind two most important parts, everything else falls down. That's why Trent and Andy Robertson didn't play as well, because of those two. Nothing to do with them individually. So I would like them to stay together at least for one more year.
Yeah. Mentioning Mohamed Salah, where do you personally think he ranks on Liverpool's greatest ever players?
Well, of course, he would be up there. But if he leaves after being here for 4 years, he probably won't be up there, because Luis Suarez, you would have said, would have been up there, but he left after 3 years. So, you have to look at the end of your career and then you rate them. So if he's here for another 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, if he leaves Liverpool now, he would still be up there as one of the greatest. But I mean, he wouldn't have scored as many goals as other players who've been here for longer. So I always try to judge players. Fernando Torres, for example, he would have been right up there, but he left after 2 or 3 years and 3 years himself. So I always look at players that after they've left Liverpool to then say, where do they rank?
Yeah. Just a name about another incoming, and this one looks like it is actually happening. So Ibrahim Konate from RB Leipzig looks like he's coming in, definitely in this window. Do you think that could spell the end for Joe Gomez potentially?
Well, I don't think it'll spell the end for Joe Gomez, because, of course, Joe is one of the main centre-backs at Liverpool at this moment in time. Konate coming in doesn't mean he's all of a sudden going to play well and take his place, because if you look at when Naby Keita came in, we expected him to maybe take over from Jordan Henderson or whoever, and it hasn't worked out. So I don't think you can look at that situation and say that spends the end for Joe, because if Konate comes in and he doesn't fit, then he won't play. And plus the fact that Joe is he's an England international. It's great to be in the squad, and he is in a different position to Nat Phillips, because of course he can play all the time anyway, and he will push Konate for that position. So I don't think it'll spend the end for Joe, but it'd be good for Liverpool just to have more options.
Yeah. There's another shock name that's been linked with the Premier League return. So he's obviously been linked with his former club Arsenal, but as well as Liverpool. That's Aaron Ramsey from Juventus. How much do you rate him as a player, and do you think he'd be a good signing for Liverpool, or do you think it's one that they don't really require?
Well, if you look at the age of Jordan Henderson now, and his fitness, and maybe Keita going, we don't know, Oxlade-Chamberlain, we may lose some midfield players, Shaqiri, so I think he'd be a good signing, because I think that he suits what Liverpool want, because he's fit, he can get up and down, he's a strong player who, all action, box to box, which is what Liverpool want from their midfielders. I don't think he'd suit a club like Manchester City, who are looking for the David Silva type, but I think that Aaron Ramsey, with what he has, his physicality, his ability to get box to box, his work rate, his humility, his commitment, I think that he would be a good fit for Liverpool, 100%, yeah.
Just moving on to management at the moment. So it's ex-Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard's obviously just won the SPL with Rangers. Do you see him managing the Premier League in the future, even if that team isn't Liverpool?
I can, yes, because of course we know that the Premier League is the place to manage. We know that Steven is ambitious, and you may win the league up there, but you win the league every year or finish second every year. To test yourself, you really want to come back down south. So that's obvious. As to whether it be a Premier League club or Liverpool, it really depends on when the opportunity presents itself, how well he's doing. Because of course, if he's going to come now, his stock is very high. But if he waits till next year and then Rangers finish second and they're 20 points off Celtic, then maybe his stock isn't high. So it's difficult to say, I can see it happening. But as to whether it will, the time for it to happen is now. Because, of course, they've unbeaten, they've won the league, they've done really well. As I said, if next year comes, then all of a sudden, because we know how fickle football can be, if Celtic win the league and Rangers don't do anything next year, our club's then going to say, look at Frank Lampard, for example. When he did what he did at Derby, then he went to Chelsea. You said he had a good first season, and look at him now. So timing is very important when it comes to management. And, of course, is there going to be a better time for Steven to come now? But is there the club available now? And it probably isn't. So that is why, I think that Steven would want to, and it'd be good for him to come back down. But as to where he'll go really depends on how well he's doing at the time when the opportunity presents itself.
So say hypothetically, if Jurgen Klopp was to leave in the near future, if you could pick one manager, who would be the ideal replacement for Klopp at Liverpool? Would it be Gerrard?
Guardiola. Of course, there are other managers. There are other managers who you would think would be a better suited, because of course Steven, he's had one good year at Rangers. Then to say you're going to come to manage Liverpool now because you've had one good year, he would be given time because of his relationship with Liverpool. But look at Frank Lampard, and his relationship with Chelsea and what happened to him. So if you're asking me if Klopp was to go now, do I think that Steven would be the man for the job? Probably not, because you'd want someone with more experience, someone who's proven at the highest level. Of course, he would be given time because he's Steven Gerrard. But would that be the right thing for Liverpool? Maybe not. And that is why, as far as that situation goes, I'm sure Steven would do well throughout his career. But I think he'd have to show a longer level of consistency over a longer period of time before you're really talking about
Yeah, well, obviously Liverpool were very unlucky this year with injuries. The main one being Virgil van Dijk. Obviously, he's not going to go to the Euros this summer. So if he has a full summer off and he can get himself fit for the next year, do you think he could be the catalyst behind Liverpool winning back the Premier League title?
He'll be the catalyst for alongside another centre back, be it Konate, be it Gomez, be it two first choice centre backs. That'll be the catalyst for Liverpool challenging. Because of course, even if he was there, that doesn't mean they were going to win the league ahead of Manchester City anyway. Because before he got injured, we weren't particularly consistent. However, we know that we would have done better, and we know we're going to perform better with him, and alongside also another centre back, be it Matip, be it Gomez. So yeah, and I'm sure he'll come back as fit as ever, because he's not far away now. So this not missing the Euros, get fitter again. We'll see the old Liverpool next year.
So, speaking of Thiago's first season as a Liverpool player, do you think it's just a case where he needs a second season for us to see the best of him? Or what were your first impressions of him as a Liverpool player last season?
He's been one of our most consistent players. But we've got to get time to adjust to him. He's been great individually. You can see the quality he actually has. But of course, when I mentioned the fact that the two centre-backs are missing, he is not a typical, and probably that's why he came, because Liverpool felt they needed, not that they necessarily did, because they won the league and they were just lost one game or 2 games in 2 years. But I think that Jurgen Klopp felt they needed more quality in midfield on the odd occasion whereby it's a bit tight, and our Jordan Henderson's, James Milner's, Wijnaldum, they're not as creative as say Thiago in terms of the vision that he actually has. So we felt we needed that. But unfortunately for him, once we missed the centre-back positions, whereby we weren't secure in the back, what we really needed were 3 Jordan Henderson types in midfield to protect the back 4, and Thiago is not that. So that is why people think I criticize Thiago. No, it's just that the way he plays doesn't necessarily help a situation whereby you're weak defensively when you have to put Firmino in there. But in terms of his individual performances, I think he's been fantastic. The team hasn't played as well necessarily because of, once again, as Jurgen Klopp says, the orchestra missing 1 or 2 players affects the whole team. But I think in terms of what he actually did, I thought he played really well. Next year, once we get more solid at the back with the 2 centre-backs, we will then see a better I won't say a better Thiago, because I think Thiago had a great season. I just think we'll see a better team performances of which he'll be a big part of.
Excellent, okay. Well, just speaking of a centre mid who will be leaving Liverpool, there's that of Gini Wijnaldum, and the main name on people's lips to replace him is Yves Bissouma from Brighton. What would you feel about that replacement if that were to happen, or is there someone else out there playing in the Premier League currently who'd rather see come in as a replacement?
I think Bissouma would be a perfect fit for Liverpool, regardless of whether Gini comes or goes, just in terms of what we want from our midfield players. He's good on the ball, he's very strong, he's more defensive than attacking, but he can also go forward. But if you look at our front 3 and what they do and the way they play, we don't need a creative attacking midfield player like a number 10 who's going to go forward and score goals. Because if we had that, Mo Salah wouldn't score as many goals, Mane wouldn't score as many goals, and that would affect the way they play. So I think Bissouma would suit our front 3 perfectly. He would also be a shield in front of the back 4 alongside whoever is playing alongside. So when I mentioned the 2 players, Dembele and Bissouma for me would be the 2 ideal players for Liverpool coming in next year.
Yeah. Well, as on the other side of Liverpool, so obviously Philippe Coutinho is being linked with a move to Everton this summer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tranmere then, so they're on the other side. I can't see Coutinho going to Tranmere. The other side.
Yes, sorry. Obviously trying to remain unbiased. Do you think that would be the best thing for his career at the age of 28, or would you personally dissuade it? And how do you think it would be received by Liverpool fans?
I think it'll be fine for him to go, because of course, had he left Liverpool and Liverpool weren't as successful as they are, then maybe they would be very critical of him. But after he left, we won the league, so it was a good move for him. It's a good move for us. So I don't think that they would. And while he was at Liverpool, he was a good character. He was humble. He got on with the fans. So I don't think they will necessarily feel that it's a traitorous move type of thing. As to whether it's the right move for him, only time will tell, because once again, he's another one like every player who has to choose the type of football that suits him. We know what Carlo Ancelotti is like. He's very pragmatic. He may feel he needs more creativity, which is what he will give you. And he will obviously, I think he's clever enough, Ancelotti, to fit him into a role that probably James Rodriguez filled. And I think he'll do a better job than James Rodriguez. So I think for Everton, it'll be a fantastic move if they can get him. Have they got the money to get him? Have they got the salary? Who knows? But in terms of it being a fit for the type of player that they need, the type of player that Ancelotti likes, and someone who can help Everton, I think that would be a good move for Everton.
Excellent. Well, just moving on to a bit more few more transfer rumours. Liverpool in recent years have made a habit of signing players from relegated teams such as Andy Robertson, Gini Wijnaldum, Shaqiri from Stoke. From any of the sides from West Brom, Sheffield United or Fulham, could you see any of them returning to the Premier League, possibly with Liverpool?
Not necessarily with Liverpool. Fulham have a few decent players. The boy who was at Everton, what's his name? Left winger. Lookman. Yeah, I like Lookman. I thought he did well at Everton. I think he did well for Fulham every time he played. He's a little bit like Wilfred Zaha, like Eze from Crystal Palace, who is good on the ball, he can dribble, but he has to find the system that suits him, and I thought Fulham did. I don't think any of the players from those clubs will necessarily go to a top 4 or 5 Premier League team, or else they would have been in a top 4 Premier League team to begin with anyway. But I think that there are a few. But Lookman is one from Fulham who I think can really fit in. Sheffield United have a few players. They've all played in the lower divisions, but they have a few players who could play for. But I can see Sheffield United coming back up. I can see all of them coming back up. So I don't see that they'll necessarily leave Fulham. Very much like Watford kept hold of Sarr, kept hold of the players because they know they can come back up. Now, if they don't come back up, then you can say, will they move on? But I can see most of their top players staying at those particular clubs.
Okay, well, I just want to move on to Chelsea quickly. So Tammy Abraham has been left out of the cold under Tuchel. Would you personally take him at Liverpool? In addition to
if you're talking about a squad, anybody will take Tammy Abraham. But is Tammy Abraham want to be a squad player? Is he going to leave Chelsea where he is probably closer to the first team as much as he's been left out, but he's there to come to Liverpool to do the same thing and probably not play as much possibly? So it's okay talking about these players who you would take, because you'll take any of the top players into your club, but they have to understand that they're not going to play every week. And why would Tammy Abraham want to do that? So of course we would take a lot of players, but as to whether it's feasible and realistic to then say they're going to leave to come, unless they're going to be happy with not playing regularly, and I don't see why he would want that.
Well, I know we were speaking about the Championship before. Have you had a chance to see Harvey Elliott at Blackburn this year? And do you believe he has a chance to break into the first team with Liverpool next year and being their very own, like Phil Foden, maybe?
I've seen Harvey Elliott a lot. I haven't seen much of him at Blackburn, but I've seen him when he's played at Liverpool, and I've seen him and know what a good player he is. But of course, is he going to play either one of the 3 midfield positions or one of the front 3 positions? No, he's not. Phil Foden is different because Phil Foden was always going to do that, and because Phil Foden did it doesn't mean that, and he's local and he's English, doesn't mean that every local English player who's very, very good is going to break into the top team. So I can't see Harvey breaking into Liverpool's team regularly to play. If he wants to come back once again and be a squad player, that's fine, but I don't think that he's going to come back now, even though he's had a good season at Blackburn, to then say he's going to push for a regular starting place in Liverpool.
Probably one of the biggest transfer stories so far, before the window's actually opened, is that Harry Kane looks dead set on leaving Tottenham this summer. I know before you were saying about teams spending during a pandemic, but it's one of those opportunities like this don't come around so often. Are you surprised that Liverpool aren't more interested in the player?
Not necessarily, and I don't know that they're not. Who knows? And of course, people would know more than we do where people are more likely to go. So why would Liverpool then show their hand to be interested in him and then get knocked back and everyone says Liverpool are not a big club because Harry Kane rejected them? So not every top player is going to be wanted by every top club, which doesn't mean that they don't think he's a good player. He has to find what the right place for him to go is, and I don't necessarily feel that Liverpool were the right place for Harry Kane. Harry Kane himself also has to look at the situation, because Harry Kane has done what he's done because he's playing at Tottenham. If you look at the way Tottenham play, Harry Kane is the number one, the talisman who creates and he scores goals for them. Manchester City, he won't be, because De Bruyne will do that. So as to whether he'll be able to play the same way for Tottenham as he does for Manchester City, I don't think he will. Because, of course, I don't think and Manchester City, the way they play, share the goals around for different players to score. Whereas at Tottenham, it's Harry Kane and Son are the ones who are going to score the goals. So once again, you have to try the football that actually suits you. He will win more trophies wherever he goes, but I don't think he will necessarily have as good a season or be as impactful for his new club because he's playing with other superstar players. Like Jack Grealish, for example, leaving Aston Villa, will not have the same effect that he does at Aston Villa. Wilfred Zaha at Crystal Palace the same. So if there was a club that you would ask me about Harry Kane, I think it'll be more Manchester United than any other club.
Excellent. Okay. So just moving on to another Another huge player has been linked with Liverpool, and this is mostly due to the commercial deal with Nike, but it's obviously that of Kylian Mbappe. Can you really envision that happening, and where do you think his next club will be? Do you think it'll be Madrid?
Well, I don't think it'll happen because, of course, we know the salaries that he would want, he would command, and the transfer fees and stuff like that. And so I can't see that necessarily happening. I think Real Madrid is the club, or staying at Paris Saint-Germain. In this climate, Paris Saint-Germain are probably the only club who can afford to give him what he wants. Even Real Madrid will be struggling along those lines. They may then say we could, burst the bank or whatever to do that, but Paris Saint-Germain can. So I would not be surprised if he stays at Paris Saint-Germain for another year.
Yeah. Do you think the same about Erling Haaland at Dortmund then as well? Do you think he'd be the same who commander?
Well, I think Erling Haaland's different because no matter what the speculation is about how much he's going to cost and the salary he would command, I think he will take less. As much as his profile may be higher, it'll take less to get him than it would to get Kylian Mbappe. Mbappe has proven it. He's been at Paris Saint-Germain. He's done it for 2 or 3 years. He's done it now for a year at Dortmund. So therefore, his stock is very high. And Dortmund are a selling club. So as much as they may say they want 150 million for him, if you're offering them 80, 90 million, do you think they'll turn it down? A club like Dortmund, knowing that something can happen in the future, is he going to turn down a very huge salary because he wants more? So I think Haaland moving on is much more likely because Paris Saint-Germain will still be a top club and be challenging next year. So if Kylian Mbappe stays, that's not going to hurt his career at all. Haaland staying at Dortmund for another year, whereby he'll possibly score less goals. Dortmund may not even do anything in Europe. He would have missed the chance to go. Dortmund would have missed the chance to sell him. So I think that's much more likely, Haaland, than Mbappe.
Where do you think that would be? Do you reckon that'll be over to one of the big two in Spain, or do you reckon he'll come over to England? If you think Kane's destined for United, do you think it could be Haaland?
I think more Spain. And why that is because I think that it's interesting because if you look at him as a player, he's a very, very physical player. Very physical. And I think that he bullies a lot of the defenders in Germany. I think that in Spain you can do that. In England, a physical player is nothing because we have lots of physical players. Here we like the technical players. So him coming here isn't going to bully Brighton centre-backs physically. Because, physical players coming to England who are very physical are just like what we see all the time. So if you're talking about the impact that he would have, I think he'd have a much bigger impact playing in Spain, whereby his physicality will really mean that he could do, I think, much better than he can in England.
Excellent, okay. Just want to move on to the Tottenham managerial vacancy at the minute. One of the names linked is Brendan Rodgers, the current Leicester manager, former Liverpool manager, obviously, of course. Do you think Tottenham still have the stock to lure someone like him?
Well, of course.
Do you think he could aim higher potentially, Brendan Rodgers?
Well, I don't think so necessarily, because having managed Liverpool and leaving Liverpool, would a big club who would say they're as big as Liverpool say we're going to take someone who failed at Liverpool, as much as he didn't fail. I thought he was treated unfairly. I thought he did a great job. But the narrative is that he didn't succeed at Liverpool. So, a club taking him now, a big club, would that be a backward step in their mind? Whereas I don't think that he would necessarily get not that he doesn't deserve it, but I don't think he could get a bigger club than Tottenham if that was to happen. I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and players and managers are different. You're talking about why would Harry Kane leave Tottenham, so why would Brendan Rodgers go there? Because from a manager's perspective, Leicester finish 10th next year, as they can, 8th. I don't think they're going to do any better than they can. Will his stock then go down? So is he going to turn Tottenham down because he's had a great year now, thinking next year, one more year at Leicester, and then a bigger job will come? And I don't think Leicester will do as well next year as they have done this year. So what then would his options be? So I think Tottenham would be a great move for him. Good timing for Nuno Espirito Santo to leave Wolves. I wouldn't be surprised if that situation arose, because I think that would also be a good fit for Tottenham. But I think, talking about Brendan Rodgers, I think that would be an ideal job for him.
Just sticking on Leicester, actually, because I read an article recently where you had linked Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as a potential player for Leicester, but the new name in the mix for them is West Ham. Do you think that would be a good move for Chamberlain as well, to sort of reinvent his career?
Yeah, I think Leicester or West Ham. Probably Leicester better, because I think Leicester are more stable than West Ham. I think they're further ahead. Obviously, forget about the size. West Ham may say they're a bigger club than Leicester, whatever. But in terms of the way they play and their stability of knowing that they will be in the top 7 every single year, because West Ham next year may not necessarily do as well as they did this year, as they didn't do last year. So I think Leicester will be a better fit. But if he wants to go back down south, West Ham, they're on the up. I think either of them would be a good move for Alex. Yeah.